Let's return to our top story, that unprecedented national security breach in the United States after senior members of the Trump administration discussed classified military information on a commercial messaging app and had a journalist as part of that discussion. For more on that, I'm joined now on the line once again by the Republican strategist and chair of Republicans Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. I'm told he's no longer there. This is just extraordinary. I apologized most sincerely. I just can't get my head around the gremlins that seem to be attacking everything here, and now the autocue's gone as well. Do we have Mr. Swenson or not?
Not yet.
Right, okay. Well, let me quickly summarize what the issues are. We're going to talk to Mr. Swenson about the seriousness of this security breach, and how concerning it is that the National Security Advisor would accidentally add a reporter to a group chat that is supposed to be limited to people on the cabinet level. You've heard, that's Peter Hegseth on the screen there, who is the certainly Defense Secretary, top-level person, making defenses about what happened. The fact that he could be this distracted, I mean, not him personally, but the National Security Advisor, who's alleged to have put the journalist into the chat by mistake, the fact that he could have been this distracted and unprofessional must really be worrying, and it is in fact worrying, because it's got the Democrats really very concerned. And of course, the app Signal is simply not a secure app. And these are sort of war plans with operational details down to the names of people that were supposed to be targeted. And those sensitive issues were being discussed over Signal, which clearly is problematic. And you would have thought that there'd be a secure, perhaps CIA app that senior officials discussing confidential classified information should be able to use on their smartphones. We've also heard about this group chat because a journalist was inadvertently added to it, but you have to wonder whether this kind of thing happens frequently. But it's just that journalists aren't added to those groups. Well, I am told that Mr. Swenson is back with us now, and I do apologize for this. Greg Swenson is a Republican strategist and chair of Republicans Overseas. Very, very sorry about this, Greg. It doesn't usually happen. And I hate to have taken up all your time there. But let's just start with your assessment of the seriousness of this security breach.
Yeah, surely there's been mistakes made. There's a lot of information that we've yet to see on how this happened and was there any really negative effect from it. It doesn't sound like there was any classified information that was exchanged. You heard that from Tulsi Gabbard and the National Security Advisor today. So they testified it before Congress. So I don't think there was any classified or top secret information, but surely there was mistakes made. Signal, contrary to what Chuck Schumer said, Signal is an approved communication device and has been used in government. You would think they would just use encrypted, top secret government communications devices, but Signal is used. I think you've seen a surge in the use of Signal because the security is so much better than WhatsApp. So I think many of us use Signal for really confidential conversations. So yeah, this is not a good day in terms of this being a distraction from the really important news, which is we attacked the Houthis and we're restoring deterrence as part of U.S. foreign policy.
Well, I mean, you said that you use Signal. I mean, you would have thought that the United States government would have its own secure app, either FBI or CIA or something, where senior officials discuss classified information on their smartphones. I mean, not using sort of Signal or WhatsApp or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I think, Charles, this is a kind of a surprise to all of us, but what we did learn today is that Signal has been approved for communications for several years now. So this is not new. Maybe there's some conveniences with Signal. There's no kind of secret, code here that people were trying to get around the government communications devices. This is not the Hillary Clinton email scandal where she wanted to use her personal email. This was obviously not personal, but how a reporter got access to that remains to be seen. And by the way, Jeffrey Goldberg is not a friend of this administration. So it's not like any of these people on the chat would have Jeffrey Goldberg in their speed dial. I'm just really surprised that any of them would have that. He's definitely not a friend of the administration. And so this whole thing smells a little funny. I think we'll learn a lot more about it in the next few days.
Indeed, but I mean, it is worrying. I mean, we've heard about this group chat because a journalist was inadvertently, according to him, added to it. I mean, is there worry that this kind of thing happens perhaps frequently, but it's just that journalists aren't added to those groups? I mean, it can't be the first time that they've used Signal for this kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, it's confusing. And I think, again, the fact that the journalist was added, the government did validate that the chat that he released is accurate and it is real. How he got on there, we don't know yet. But this is, it is obviously a bit confusing. And you would think that they would not use a commercial app. But they're also very concerned about being infiltrated by adversaries on the government functions, and that's happened recently. So I think there might be some concern that the government functions aren't as effective. And so this is I think there's a great question right now. How did Jeffrey Goldberg get onto that app? Whether who added him or how was he put into the chat? And from using group chats, the administrator has to do it. And that's what's really confusing here is why any administrator of that chat would have Jeffrey Goldberg's number in their contacts. That would be really surprising to me.
Well, I mean, the suggestion is that it was added inadvertently by the National Security Advisor. I don't know how you can do that inadvertently. I mean, you see what I mean? Because but anyway, as you said, it needs to be properly investigated. And of course, when Donald Trump was asked about this by a journalist, he said he didn't know anything about it and that it was the first time he was hearing about it, even though the administration had already put out statements. I mean, it does suggest, doesn't it, that senior officials weren't too keen to tell the president what had gone on. Or maybe he simply didn't want to acknowledge that he was aware of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And, look, the president's a busy man. I don't know that they thought this would be a top issue. This was not a major security breach. It was obviously a human error, or there was a mistake made somewhere in the chain. And so I think we'll find out a lot more in the next few days. But again, it's a shame because it's a distraction from the fact that, that as Pete Hegseth said, we are bringing deterrence back to foreign policy. And it's a shame that this has been a real, really distracted people away from that.
And of course, the most senior Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, has called for an investigation describing what happened as a stunning breach of military intelligence. Do you think heads are likely to roll? If so, how high might the resignations go?
Yeah, I don't think so. Charles, because this wasn't a policy dispute. This wasn't a major disagreement or any sort of breach of loyalty or service. This was just a mistake. And so, and we still don't even know who made the mistake. So I think it's a little premature. Of course, you're going to hear hyperbole from Chuck Schumer, and I think he's exaggerating. I mean, I know for specifically he called it classified information. That's not true. There were no war plans discussed on this chat. It was just a conversation about should we or shouldn't we. Now, that's not something I would want my enemy to know beforehand. But fortunately, Jeffrey Goldberg, for once in his life, had the decency to do what's right and not release that information before the attack was executed over the weekend.
But I mean, Mr. Swenson, isn't it a fact that most members of the Trump cabinet in America are made up of sort of close friends and associates with no prior knowledge, many of them or experience in government operations, and are therefore learning on the job? So really no surprise that there's been this breach.
Well, I think, look, people are using new communications technology all the time, including all of us. And I think, mistakes are bound to happen. I don't think there was anything sinister about that. And that's why I don't think heads will roll, because this was not someone trying to, unless they find out that some staffer was trying to create a leak of some sort. So look, this is not, I wouldn't call this good news today. But I don't think it's, this is not the releasing confidential information to the enemy on purpose, which is what we've had in the past, going back to the Cold War. And so this is, as far as I know, it looks like just human error and, or as they say, fat fingers on a keyboard.
I mean, just briefly, I know you touched on this earlier, but I mean, is it probable that countries like China, Russia, maybe even North Korea, who normally try to hack the phones of US officials, may well have read some of the messages that were exchanged?
Yeah, look, they very well could. And this is worrisome. They're trying to hack into our systems constantly. And it's not just military and defense and security. They're hacking into commercial information. They tried to hack into the IRS. They've hacked into the Treasury. So yeah, this is a real concern of ours. And this is, cyber warfare is alive and well.
Greg, thank you very much indeed. And apologies once again for the wires that got all twisted here. Greg Swenson is the Republican strategist and chair of Republicans Overseas UK. He was talking to me on the line there from London.